Hi, this is Judge Dodell. As you probably know by now, we have a radio show. It's called For the People. And to make life easier for you, since we have so many shows now, and you don't have to be poking around looking for a particular subject of interest to you, I've done an index. So if you go to the website, which is judgeherbdodell.us, click on radio shows, it'll have every one of the shows identified by date. In other words, if you wanted to hear the interview with Roger Stone, you'd go to the June 4th show. If you wanted to hear the interview with Lee Baca, you go to the March 5th show. Everything will be identified by subject matter. So if there's anything that interests you on a particular subject, you'll have it right there easily available to you. Or you can go to the book, because a lot of the material we talk about on the show comes from the book, From the Trench to the Bench, Navigating the Legal System and Finding Your Spiritual Path Along the Way. So it should be easier. We're going to talk about motions today. A motion is not standing in front of the judge and waving your arms and trying to get attention. Those are documents that are prepared by the lawyers. And they consist mainly of a statement of the facts, statement of the law, citing the law to the facts, and it ends with what's called the conclusion, where you're asking the judge to do something for you at the end of the day, grant you some relief, or deny relief that the other side is seeking. And so there are several different kinds of motions. I'm going to talk very briefly about them because we don't have a lot of time to do them on these YouTubes. The first is a motion to vacate, which is saying basically is that something went wrong if there's a judgment that has been entered against you and you want it to be set aside. Vacating means basically setting it aside. Like you weren't properly served. You never knew about it until you got a notice in the mail. Well, I'll tell you about an interesting case that I had where the process server claimed that he served a particular person. Service means you walked over to them, you handed it to them, or you dropped it at their feet, and that's called service. There's another form of service called substituted service, which means you just leave it at the location with a person who's there customarily, and you have to mail a copy. But this process server said he walked over and he served her personally. She came in for the hearing, and she brought in her passport and ticket reservation receipts showing she was out of the country at the time, that this guy claimed he walked over and served her. Now, there's a presumption in the law that a process server who is licensed should be believed, but it's rebuttable. It's called a rebuttable presumption. I was satisfied that she was never properly served. I set aside or I vacated the judgment, and she got a chance to try her case from the beginning on its merits. There's also something called a motion to quash. I love that term, quash. It sounds like something, well, it's motion to quash. It's basically the same thing, except you're claiming that there was an illegality or an impropriety in terms of the proceedings itself, and you want to set aside anything that was done by the court in that regard. That's called a motion to quash. Same thing, basically you bring in testimony to support your allegations. The third motion is called a motion to strike. Many people sue others for what's called punitive damages, claiming they're entitled to these enormous amounts of money for the conduct of the other side. Well, most of the time, punitive damages don't apply. They don't apply generally in contract cases. They apply in tort cases. And so if you sued somebody for breach of contract and you're asking for punitive damages, the defendant makes a motion to strike. In other words, to take it out of the complaint so it no longer becomes an issue for the purposes of the trial. That's just a very big overview of a very complicated subject, but it gives you a basic sense of it. If you have any questions, contact me at askjudgeherb@gmail.com, and I'll be happy to respond to you. Or watch the show, go to the index, pick a subject that's interesting, and enjoy it. We'll see you again real soon.